Hmm. You know exactly what's about to happen. I'm making a mac and cheese with the cheese sauce, and I'm going to help you take away those struggles that you have with making mac and cheese with the roux so that you get a nice creamy mac and cheese with a pull like this. I'll show you exactly what I do. The first thing I do is grate my cheese. Then I get ready to get started on making the roux. Now, this is the part where I've seen in videos and comments where people are saying they're struggling on. And I don't know why, because to me, this part is easy. It's probably the easiest part. All you're doing is mixing flour and fat, and that's it. You just mix it and then cook it. So for me, what I'm doing is I'm mixing some flour and some butter. I'm just making sure that I get all of the flour mixed in so I don't have any lumps. You can make the roux as light or as dark as you want. If you make it any darker, then it's going to become more nutty in flavor. Whereas when it's lighter in flavor, you don't really get that. So I just cook it down just a little bit to get rid of the flour taste that it has. The lighter the roux that you have, the better it will be at thickening whatever sauces that you're making. If you have a darker roux, then it's going to be thinner. So just keep that in mind when you're making a roux. Maybe you want a more nutty, more intense flavor, so you're going for a darker roux. But if you're looking for it to actually be thickened, go for a lighter roux. So then I add in the milk and then my seasonings. I'm not using a lot for seasoning. I'm just using some salt, some garlic powder, and some black pepper. That's it. For me, when it's macaroni and cheese, simpler is better. But I know a lot of people they want it Cajun seasoned, or you can season it however you want. But for me, this is the better way to do it. That way it doesn't get overpowered. And I'll make sure to put all of the ingredients in the description. So you can see this is where I want my bechamel to be. This is about as thick as I want it. Now I don't want it any thicker than this because once I start adding in the cheese, it's going to get really thick. And as it cooks and bakes in the oven, it's going to get even thicker. And as it sits, it'll get even thicker. So this is about where I want it. So now I'm adding in my cheese and I'm going to do it a little bit at a time just to make sure that it all gets mixed in. And when I'm mixing it in, I actually turn the stove off so that it's not continuing to cook because I don't want the sauce to get any thicker. And once I've got all of that done, I've added in the macaroni elbows. I cook the elbows and the sauce at the same time because the saucepan that I use to make the sauce would not have been big enough for me to add all of that cheese into. Now I'm going to add half of the mac and cheese at the bottom of a cast iron skillet and layer it kind of like a lasagna. You can use whatever cookware you want. I usually use a 9 by 13 glass pan or I use a cast iron. Every once in a while, I may use a casserole dish, but it's really up to you how you want to do it. I end the layering by topping it off with the rest of the cheese. You can use whatever cheeses you prefer. I'm using mozzarella, sharp cheddar, some Fontina, and some Monterey Jack. But you can use whatever ones you want. Sometimes I use smoked Gouda. It just really just depends. But just know whatever cheese you use are really going to affect the flavor of your mac and cheese. I've got my oven preheated to 350 degrees. I'm going to bake this for about 30 to 40 minutes. And then I'm going to broil it for a few minutes until it gets nice and brown on top, just like this.